Does anyone feel better off out there, by the way? I think it's a reasonable question. It would be nice at some point just to speak to somebody who says, do you know, I genuinely feel better off. Yeah, life's good. Life's much better than it was a couple of years ago. I can't imagine anyone like that actually exists, no matter what your income bracket happens to be. Now, yesterday we talked about our levels of sheer debt in this country. It's eye-watering stuff all round, and the Chancellor is trying to fill a 50 billion quid black hole, the kind of money that could rebuild a small country. Today, we get some sort of peek into the inner workings of the collective minds of Reeves and Rayner. And it ain't pretty. Yet again, the taxman is coming for you. Households across the country, particularly in wealthy areas, could be hit with huge council tax rises under Rayner's plans to divert more funding from deprived regions. Experts warned, however, there are issues with this. Reforms being brought in by the Deputy PM will mean many councils in areas, particularly the south, not exclusively, and London, and the home counties face swinging cuts to their core budgets, according to this report by the Institute of Fiscal Studies, which suggests, and it does get rather interesting, that changes will see around a quarter of councils in England alone lose money in real terms. Now, the problem with the winners and the losers thing is that it means the strength of the cuts in wealthy areas will have huge implications on other services. And those services, of course, don't just affect wealthy people. So there's an issue on that one. It could be your bin collection, elderly care, you name it. Even if the increases bills by the maximum amount allowed, it would still cause an issue. There is a very simple truth in life. I just said it to Julia. It's not even an opinion. It's just an economic fact. You cannot tax a country into prosperity. You just can't do it. It doesn't work. It will never work. It's anti-intellectual. It's like trying to get two opposite poles to attract. It ain't gonna happen. And over there in the tax office, where they're too busy organising anti-British staff seminars to notice any of this. More on that shortly, by the way. But the real crime here, in many ways, is this. Governments are not just here to paper over a few cracks, to make a short-term plan, I don't know, for the coming months or year ahead. They have a moral obligation to set the scene for the next generation. It's literally their job to sow the seeds of prosperity and ensure that the economic terrain of our country is in good shape for years to come. But today we see that Labour's taxation policies are in fact crushing the UK labour market and setting young people up for failure. And as I said a moment ago, 60% of Britain's youngest workers fear finding well-paid jobs will be harder. That means getting on the property ladder near on impossible. Many people just resign to the why bother mantra. It reflects widespread anxiety under Labour's economic plans. So with all of that in mind, you've got literally everybody getting hit here. Left, right and flipping centre. What advice do you have for Reeves and Rayner? 0344 499 1000. And I'd love to get a bit of a list going of areas that we could, and maybe we'll read this out at the end, a collation of your suggestions, what advice you have for the Chancellor and the Deputy Prime Minister. Oh, there you go. That's my phone going. Sorry about that. Halfords. What advice do you have for the Deputy Prime Minister and for the Chancellor of the Exchequer? Very simply, these are the two people that are really behind what we're talking about here. Rayner is determined to get the council tax. She just thinks a bit like the landlord thing. You know, if you live there, you're all well off. If you're a landlord, you're all well off. We can just tax the pants off you lot, and that makes her feel better. She will sleep better at night knowing that people who've worked hard and have got a little bit more than someone else, it might only be a little bit more, by the way, they are the very people that we can go for those people with impunity. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if we attack that group of people. It's absolutely fine because we're punching up, as it were. And then with this just incredibly misplaced, bonkers belief that everything will come out rosy. Look what we did. We taxed all the people with a few more quid. Fantastic. Yeah, what about the kids at the other end who might only be sort of 13, 14 now, But by the time you leave office, Angela Rayner, they're going to be 17 and 18. They're going to be in the workplace. They're going to be looking for a stable economy to function in, an area where they can do well. That sense of, I live in the land of plenty, a place where I can thrive, where I can grow, where I can increase my possibilities. And whether that's financial or otherwise, it's a good place to be, a nice feel. Not quite milk and honey, but you take the point. 0344 499 1000. What advice do you have for Reeves and Rayner? Let's get a word on this and the other big stories of the day. Liam Deacon is with us, former head of press over there at the Brexit Party. Liam, good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon, Ian. Great to be here.
And lovely to have you with us. This is classic Labour territory, of course, the jobs tax. We've seen that with the national insurance rise, spearheaded by Rachel Reeves. And it's crushing, if you like, the UK labour market. There's issues in this. People have cut jobs back, setting young people up for failure. 60% of Brits fear finding well-paid jobs will be harder. And this, of course, reflects a huge anxiety over there in the economy. Let's have a listen, just before we kick off, Liam, to the Chancellor's comments about taxation since Labour gained power. Here she is.
I'm really clear. I'm not coming back with more borrowing or more taxes. And at this point, we did wipe the slate clean.
That is actually how she speaks, by the way. That's not a technical glitch. But nonetheless, you got it there, Liam. I mean, everything's good, everything's hunky-dory in the world of Rachel and Angela. They don't seem to really see the problem. They're in full control. What are you making of this?
Well, let's start with the positive, shall we? Because there isn't many. You started by talking about council tax, and so few young people actually own a house that probably won't impact many of them.
That's a very good point. Yeah,
yeah,
you're slightly armour-plated on that one in many respects.
You know, so there's your silver lining. We'll start with that. But, I mean, this is a great bit of polling. It's by the Adam Smith Institute, who've only just moved into doing this kind of research, and they're really making a splash. So I just wanted to give a shout out to Max Marlow and the team there, because it's important that people ask these questions, because every time we talk about this exodus of young people, Nigel Farage has spoken about it and stuff, there's always inevitably some commentators that come back saying, you're making that up, what are you saying? And, you know, part of this is completely obvious, but actually these are the questions that need to be asked. We need the evidence, and here it is right in front of us. 60% feel utterly pessimistic about finding a well-paid, satisfying job. Okay, and you know, that's not an isolated phenomenon. We've just had the debate around PIP and welfare and stuff, and if people aren't getting ahead, finding good jobs, the motivation to work hard and get on falls, and more people end up on welfare and things like PIP. So there's that. Only 14% said they expect no change ahead of the next general election, but just 1 in 4 said they were optimistic about things improving over the next 4 years. So, you know, it goes back to that sort of Reaganite aphorism that it's the economy, stupid, and the economy is utterly failing people right now. I mean, you know, the question is, what could Labour do? They said they wouldn't put tax on working people. They fiddled that. They put this jobs tax on, and that does filter down. That leads to lower wages, and it is effectively a tax on people. So they fiddled that, but they're claiming they haven't put tax on. So what could they do? You ask the question. I mean, a lot of Tories have said this. A lot of reform people are saying this. You need something called supply side reform. Now, that's a bit of an abstract term. What does that mean? It's really simple. It's really simple. It means making it easier to produce things and do things. OK? That's what the government do. They need to make it easier for us to go out, start companies, make money, okay, and generate growth, okay? And you just look at the conditions that successive governments have created in this country. We have the most expensive industrial electricity in the developed world. We have some of the most restrictive planning laws in the developed world. We have crippling house prices that particularly impacts young people, okay? Immigration is running at near enough 1 million a year, okay, despite promises to do the opposite. Okay, for years they told us that that would boost the economy, but suddenly, just this week, you've had a senior member of the OBR coming out and saying, actually, bringing in low-paid workers, that costs the economy overall much more, because they're dependents and they claim benefits and things like that. So you've got that, and then you've got other things like, you know, so these are things that you can do to get people out there. Okay, we need to build infrastructure. Okay, and we need to make that cheaper. We need, and Richard Tice made this point when he made a comment responding to this poll. He said we need cheaper energy, and you might think, well, that's a bit of a leap. We're talking about, you know, people getting jobs, but you know, energy is the sort of it's almost obvious, is the power that gets you know, industry moving. Okay, you can't have factories and stuff. I was talking to someone who works for a laptop company the other day. I can't say who, but they've had discussions with the Chancellor because they're building all their laptops out in places like Hungary. And the Chancellor's saying, well, you know, we could have a much better relationship if you built some laptops in the UK. It's a complete non-starter. They can't open a factory in the UK because it would put the cost of those laptops up so much. So all those jobs, high-paid jobs in industry, just disappear. You've seen Vauxhall get rid of jobs. You've seen major factories closing. Okay, all this rubbish about the green industrial revolution, it's a fantasy. That phrase really annoys me because we've seen the absolute opposite of an industrial revolution happen ever since we pursued these green policies. So all of these things are not abstract. They're not far. They're not distant from this core reality that young people, the future of this country, feel neglected. Now, also, a lot of your viewers are going to be older people. They're going to be people with pensions. They're going to be people that are very focused on that side of things. And you might think, well, you know, we've got it hard too. There's lots of talk now about taxing pensions and things like that. But what older viewers need to understand is their state pension isn't held in some gold-plated pot somewhere. Their state pension is paid by young people working today. Okay, so the taxes that young people like me pay your pension directly in the near term. Okay, and if we have fewer young people in high-paid jobs paying taxes, pensions suffer as well. So this is a thing that the whole of society needs to care about. And that filters down as well. If young people aren't making money and not living in houses, they're not having children. And then the future, the very future of this country begins to look uncertain.
100%. I mean, this isn't, you know, it's not rocket science. This is the most sort of bamboozling part of all of this when you look at it, Liam, is that, you know, a sort of A-level student of economics could work this out. In fact, maybe not even somebody studying economics could sort of work out that this is going dramatically in the wrong direction. And it is about not just building and securing where we are now, but it's also their job to create the environment for the future. And I can't say in 5 years' time, I shudder to think where our economy might be under this lot.
Yeah. Let me give you an example. So the Labour sort of bet the farm on getting growth going, okay? They said that the way to solve the economic woes that we've been suffering under for decades is to get growth going. You know, we've been flat growth pretty much my entire life since 2008, right? And they said we're going to get growth going, and that means we won't need to tax people because the economy will be bigger and we'll be getting more taxes naturally, okay? And I remember thinking, like, so what are they actually going to do? What are they going to do to get growth going? Because they don't want to, you know, they've basically banned fossil fuels. They're putting up regulation, all the things that businesses need to get growth going. And the one thing that looked a bit promising was planning. OK, so they were going to drive through a little bit of planning thing. You know, part of that I think was actually quite negative. They wanted to concrete over parts of our countryside and things like that. But part of it was quite good. You need to build factories. You need to build data centres.
Yeah.
It can take 10 years to build a data centre in this country.
100%.
And then they put it through Parliament, they watered it all down, and all of the environmental protections and things that stop factories and railways and roads and tramways being built suddenly looked uncertain again because one newt or one butterfly or one bat. And here's the example, okay? So, you know, do you remember the story about the £100 million bat tunnel that we're being forced
the bat tunnel, crucial
Okay.
infrastructure, of course.
So the Labour government, senior members of the Labour government, called that bat tunnel beep, 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 bat beep, 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 crazy. I won't say that word on air, but they called it bat something crazy. Okay, so the senior members of the government said we're wasting £100 million, but that law's still there. Yeah. We're still building this bat tunnel. The government is in power but powerless. We're spending £100 million building something because of a bit of regulation that the opposition, the government, and most people in the press and the media and commentators think is crazy, and we're still building it.
Yeah, I mean, I love a bat like anybody else, but not £100 million worth of protection.